That truck got out Dodge real quick.
Yeah.
No time to sit around.
I was smack that
Hey, that's
security
SpaceX
truck
for
with
you.
that weight. Good grief. Work must go on.
The things we watch. Wow, it's really leaving. The things we commentate on as we wait for a starship to do something.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep bringing in these questions here. Here's a nice discussion one. Anthony asks, what's the story with territorial ownership of the moon and Mars when setting up colonies? So, current state of play is that based on the United Nations, the Outer Space Treaty, of which all United Nations members have signed, says that no country can lay claim to property in space other than spacecraft they put there.
Well, I'm going to interrupt you, Thomas. Look
Oh,
at this.
yeah. No,
They're
look at what
putting
they're
it on the
doing.
They're putting it on the super heavy transporter. That's what they're doing.
They're configuring the super heavy booster transporter right now. You see the
Yeah.
big spreader beam?
Yeah, that's what that is. That is incredible.
All right.
We just
So is
jumped
BN1
in.
going out tomorrow?
So what they do, you see the multi-wheel transporter. That's one of those SPMTs, the self-propelled modular transporters, right? And they build these things for different things. They use them to move starships out to the pad. You see them rolling down the road. But right now, you see the big black spreader bars that go between the two SPMTs, the two modules? They're actually weighting that down with weights from the crane, those blue crane weights with the red and white triangles on them. Those are actually the big, massive crane weights. And what they do is they put a bunch of those weights on the transporter whenever they're going to transport a Starship, or it looks like a booster here, to lower the center of mass, to make that transporter really heavy by adding literally tens of thousands of pounds of mass to it, weight to it, whatever. So what I wonder if the truck's going to show up with another one. Are they going to keep stacking more weights? Are they done for now? It looks to me like they're putting together the transporter to transport BN1.
Oh.
It will be interesting to see how quickly that happens after SN11 flies. It could be
I would very much say not today based on where we are.
Right, yeah.
Probably not today, yeah.
And sunlight loss, because you really don't want to get stuck on that road after sunset. As hilarious as that would be. No, but this is a reason I really hope SN11, I'm really rooting for SN11 to land successfully and be recovered, because I want the picture of the Starship and the booster side by side together, not the render. I want the actual image of it for the size comparison. Because you think Starship's big, just wait.
Yeah.
God, sorry, Thomas and Chris, y'all were having the conversation, and then we're over here looking at cameras, and we completely just broke in on you. I apologize.
No, you're good.
We saw the telehandler picking that stuff up, and then it puts that weight on the transporter, and I'll be darned, I wonder if that's what they're working on right now. It's on launch day, no less. They're going to fly the spaceship in the background, and they're over there stacking weights and stuff like that. So I wanted to...
and they've got another one about to go on right now.
There you go. So we'll stay on this for just a little bit. On the other views, we still know those lifts are up on Starship SN11. In the background, the turbulence with all the energy coming down from the sun, the turbulence is a little bit tough right now. Hopefully, as we get into the afternoon, that clears up and we have a nice crystal clear shot of Starship here. Same thing with the clouds. Hopefully, those clear up as well. But for now, we'll stay over here and we'll sort of watch this view as they're working in the foreground there. And I wanted to do a thing really quickly. What we do here at NASA Spaceflight, we're bringing you this live coverage. We have cameras all over the place, these robotic deployable cameras that pack down to a briefcase and we can deploy out. We've got a couple of those out. We're going to have some broadcast kits out there with actual crewed cameras as well. But we love sharing these events with people. And when we do it, it's amazing that using the technology we have on hand, we can get these experiences to people all over the world. So mods, I didn't warn you on this one, but I'm going to try to do the thing. You know what I like to do.
I'm opening YouTube.
If you have the chat window open, you better minimize the chat window because it's about to go ham. Let me know where you are watching. They are stacking weights on a transporter that will potentially be used to carry a booster. There's a Starship in the background. They're arming the explosives on the Starship. Tell me where you're watching from. right now. I'll try to read some. Italy, Germany, India. There was a Uruguay, Denmark, Southern UK, Colorado Springs, Tacoma, Washington, Poland, Los Angeles, New Zealand, Massachusetts. I think it's going to crash the chat if I'm not mistaken.
I caught Austria and Ontario and Germany and Norway and Quebec and the UK and France and Brazil and Colombia.
We got a Brownsville, Texas in there even. There's Canada,
we did.
Latvia.
I saw that. Yes.
Yeah. Dudley, UK, Portugal. God, there's a Wales in there. What else do we have? Nepal. I just saw Nepal go by. A couple South Africas in a row there. There's a London, Columbus, Ohio. Mars. There's always one.
Mars.
Every chat, there's always one. There's McMurdo Station. One of these days, somebody's going to take a selfie with a NASA spaceflight stream on a computer at McMurdo Station down in Antarctica.
Although I was just going to ask if anyone from McMurdo Station is watching. Not only do I want to talk to you, how do I winter over 1 year with you? I would love to do that. Oh my god.
But the chat is still just scrolling like crazy. There was Austin, Texas, just up the road. Switzerland, South Africa.
A couple people from Alabama just want to say, and Georgia, very grateful for everyone who is still safe today after the really bad weather there yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. So, folks, keep on coming in, mods. You don't have to worry. That's just going to scroll. I couldn't even see what NASA spaceflight said. Something highlighted yellow just rocketed off the top of the chat screen there. I don't know what it said. Wherever you are watching from all over the world, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate everybody who comes to our streams to be a part of these experiences. It's not just watching a video. It's not just, oh, look at all the pixels I have. It really is a community thing, and we are here to share our excitement and our entertainment, our information, just all the different things.
Sorry, Doss. It's moving.
Go ahead.
They're moving the transporter.
Oh, they are moving the transporter now.
Oh my gosh, look at this. It's going to the high bay, isn't it? They're moving it over to the high bay area, right?
I don't know. They got four weights.
That would be the logical place, yeah.
Do it when the road's closed.
Yeah,
that's a fair point.
Oh my
lord!
Lord.
I just continue to be disappointed by how slow they move in Boca
more
Chica,
waves on the left side.
Oh no, that's what they're doing. Yeah,
they just had to back it out of the parking spot a bit.
I was going to say, this is why we never make anything like "I'll eat my hat if."
Yeah.
Again, y'all, just to wrap up the location place, wherever you're watching from all over the world, we hope that you have fun with these streams. We don't want to be a dry, boring stream. We know that we joke. We know that we're not straight-laced NASA broadcast commentary. Like, that's not how we roll. We want to make this exciting for everybody. We want to answer questions. There's no such thing as a dumb question in our chat, unless you're asking whether or not the Earth is an oblate spheroid or flat. Maybe that one sort of starts to border on whether or not the question could actually not be a great question. But whatever you do, thank you so much for joining us on these broadcasts, because we do have a lot of fun, and it's a pleasure to share these experiences with y'all. I'll return you to your regular programming now. I just wanted to do my "where is everybody watching from" thing, because it really does. It makes me a happy camper. I got a grin on my face. Well, the size of Texas. How's that sound?
I like it.
But yeah, I was just going to point out, we continue to be disappointed by how slow they move in Boca Chica. I mean, only preparing to roll out BN1 the day of SN11 flight, like, that's just so slow, you know? It's actually
they
amazing.
really faster. I mean, launch two at a time.
As soon as I'm like, wow, I've seen everything, then they decide to do something new and even more interesting. And I'm like, well, I guess I'm never going back to LA.
I thought you lived in Boca Chica now, Jack. Wait, you live in LA?
I honestly, at this point, I would say that I spend around half my time at least in Boca Chica. I mean, in the last 2 to 3 months, I've spent most of my time in Boca Chica. But it's worth it. There's only going to be one moment like this in history, and we're living it right now. So you might as well take advantage of it while you can.
Yeah. I was going to make a joke. It's like they're a good version of like the Borg Collective, and you are adapting, Jack.
I am Elon of Borg. You are
yes,
Elon.
there you go.
I am Elon of Borg. Resistance is useless.
Does that mean I can install a robot camera on your eye? Like, can I get that live feed from that equipment installed in your head?
Yes.
Oh, fantastic.
Just give me a giant like 10-gallon Stetson hat or whatever, like in The Simpsons when Homer wears the surveillance hat on his head, and it's like obviously a camera in a hat.
A camera and I. Love it. All right. Well, for those of you who are just joining, I think it's probably a good idea to go around the horn because it's been a little while since we've done an overview. I am Chris Gebhardt. I am the assistant managing editor here at NASA Spaceflight. Joined by a lot of my really good colleagues and friends here. We are awaiting the flight of SN11 from suborbital pad B. You can see it there in the background. In the foreground here, we are actually watching them prepare the ground transporter to haul booster number 1. That's right. They're preparing to haul super heavy booster number 1 out to the pad, and they're preparing that ground transporter for that. So that's what we're looking at in the foreground. In the background, you can see Starship SN11 out at the pad. And I do believe one of the top aero flaps has moved since we have not been paying attention to SN11. I believe they've tucked one in and some things are moving, but you can also see the cherry pickers up there getting the flight termination system ready for flight today as well. We do not currently have a known target for the flight, although the opportunity runs until 7:30 p.m. Central Time, which is 8:30 Eastern Time and 0 hours 30 minutes UTC. So that is how long their flight window goes till today. They do appear to be tracking ahead of that end of window, but we're just not sure when at this point. And as soon as we do, we will pass that along. But all indications were that they had a good static fire of a single Raptor engine this morning, which we covered here live, and then they proceeded on to preparing the vehicle for flight, which is what we are seeing now. So that is sort of a good overview of where we are, but I am joined, let's go around, I am joined in no particular order by my colleague, John Galloway, also known as DOS here on the site. John, how's it going?
That's me. How's it going? I'm hanging out to put a voice to a name here, folks, waiting for SN11 to hopefully do a little bit of a flight for us here.
So now the big question, what's on tap for lunch? What's lunch today, DOS?
So I ate some, so you get like Frank's Red Hot sauce, you make mac and cheese, then you like cut up some chicken or bacon or something like that, and you mix it all together. That was my lunch with other various things, but that was a little while ago now.
I thought I heard you eating. I was going to be cute and point out what you were eating. But yes, Jack, what are you doing? Yeah.
I have a turkey bacon sandwich that I am going to put chips in, Chris. We're two like minds here.
Yes. I had a homemade like hibachi stir fry thing for lunch. So, and I know Thomas just had food delivered, so we'll get to him in a minute. But yes, the other voice you heard there. There you go.
But are you in paradise?
I'm watching a Starship stream. That's paradise to me, Jack.
There you go. We'll get to you.
Picker stream.
That was
that's true. This is a cherry picker stream at this point.
Telehandler, I guess. Is the correct.
Yeah,
telehandler. I think that's a
telehandler webinar.
Yeah. I switched to that camera because that telehandler was driving around in front of the shot, like intentionally.
Was right there. But yes, in addition to myself and John, the other voices that you have heard on here, I see Thomas is unmuted, so I'm going to go to him next, is Thomas Burghardt, a person of many hats at NSF, editor, writer, coordinator, live stream person. Thomas, how's it going today?
It's going good, and I'm glad to be here for some SN11 coverage. Hoping, very cautiously optimistic that SN11 might be the one that sticks the landing. I really want to see that. So, yeah, just here hanging out.
And Michael Baylor is also here behind the scenes and on comms here every so often as well. Michael, how's it going?
Good, and kind of want to see. I'm hoping they're gonna finish that super heavy transporter weight assembly, and they're gonna roll that out. I doubt it's gonna happen, but I'm kind of hoping we're gonna see that roll out to the high bay while we're live.
I mean, they're still tearing around the yard there.
The truck just came back.
Yeah.
Super important food update. Looks like there's a guy setting up a barbecue truck next to me.
Ooh.
Oh, goodness. I might be doing barbecue instead.
A barbecue truck? Like a food truck sort of thing?
Yeah, it looks like it. It sounds like a hot air balloon burner going right now as he gets the smoker up and running. Like it's just like propane and propane accessories over there.
So
Nice.
that was the voice of Jack. So Jack is also on
Yes.
comms.
Yes.
Yeah, if somebody's talking about food on one of these streams, there's like a greater than 90% chance it's me, and I apologize, but I regret nothing.
And you never should. You never should. Just out of curiosity, what kind of chips are going in the sandwich?
I don't want to say the brand because we're not sponsored by them or whatever, but it's a common brand and it is lime flavored.
Ooh, very nice. Very
When
nice.
have we
I
ever
like
been
that.
shy about saying brand names on the stream? Am I not supposed to be saying brand names?
I don't know. I felt like being fancy. Don't at me.
It's like generic chip brand. You put gaff tape across the logo, and everybody still knows what it is because you're just covering up the name. But
They are
like,
potato
oh,
chips.
gee, what is? I know. I love that in movies when it's like, what is that silver large laptop with a circle covered? Like on its cover, it's all funny. I love it. But yeah, so that's where we are right now with preparations for SN11's flight today, and apparently preparations to roll BN1 out to the pad at some time fairly soon, since they are configuring its transporter. So yes, we are going to continue to run through some questions here. Please feel free to ask. Tag us at NASA Spaceflight in chat. That lets us see it a little bit quicker on our back end here. But Stephen here with a 10-pound super chat saying, hi from the UK. Do you think the early crewed flights of Starship will have ejection seats for low altitude emergency escape like the shuttle had very early on? Keep up the great work. Excellent question, because yes, the shuttle did have this on the first 4 test flights when it only flew 2 people. I do not believe that they would entertain that on Starship. I think the goal is to make it safe for human transportation, and what risk remains, you accept that like you do other forms of transportation. I don't think they would wish to complicate the vehicle's design in that way, especially since from what we know, the early human flights are not, we only know of one human flight so far, and that's the Dear Moon flight. And that seems to have a pretty good shot of being the first human flight of a Starship, unless there's a surprise coming. So I don't think you would also want to just subject regular people to ejection seats like that. It's a little bit different when you're using military test pilots in that regard, who really, really train for that type of stuff. It's another for just pure civilians. I don't think there's any desire to do that, but it's a really good question. Really good question.
The other
Stephen.
thing I'll just add on really quick, you have to remember, Shuttle debuted with a crewed flight. Starship will debut with possibly hundreds of uncrewed flights beforehand, so that risk will be retired before the crew actually gets on board.
Very good point as well, yes. And of course, its handling and characteristics during the various flight stages will be well understood by the time a crew is put on board, which Shuttle didn't have either. Yeah.
Shout out to John Young and Bob Crippen for flying the shuttle crewed on its first flight. I mean, holy cow, what a task! I mean, some of those test flight guys from the old school era, wow, just wow.
Yeah. I mean, that took some metal, as they say.
We're never going to be back there where we're strapping human beings, probably for good reason. It's a good thing that we are, but strapping human beings to the top of what were previously weapons of war, ballistic missiles, and we would put a pod with a guy on top, and I don't know, can he go to space? We will never be back there. Probably a good thing that we won't, but the progress that they made and the risks that they took, wow. That's all I can say about that.
Yeah.
So real quick, Chris,
go ahead,
it is now 1:45 as a status update. What's going on? The village has been evacuated since noon. And when we say village evacuated, clearly there are still workers doing things, but the residents, so Mary, Boca Chica gal that lives there in the village, she evacuated at noon at the request of SpaceX. She has moved off to a safe location, a little bit a ways, where she'll be watching and bringing up another camera feed for us whenever it's go time. We don't want her having to stand out in the hot sun. That's why we have the robots. They don't complain and they have fans. So we will watch what's going on here. Still, the turbulence out there a little bit difficult here as we go through the warmer part of the day. As it gets a little bit on into the afternoon, hopefully this clears up some. The image gets a little bit crisper. It's just on these cameras, you got 1 and 1.5 miles of air between the Starship and the camera lens, respectively. And those cameras are inside the safety zone. They will stay there during the launch, but we will continue to watch what's going on. Currently, clearly, you see those lifts up. They are working on the flight termination system area right there around the middle of Starship. That's that FTS. You can be cool and call it the FTS. That is the flight termination system, literally explosives that are strapped to the side of Starship, and they can use that to destroy Starship if they lose control of it. So imagine Starship is flying and something happens, they lose control. You don't want it ending up at South Padre Island. You don't want it ending up in Mexico. You don't want it ending up anywhere other than the range where you had it. So they can terminate that flight by literally splitting it in half. That is what those lifts are working on. Oftentimes we've seen those lifts up there about an hour to an hour and a half. And then after they come down, things start to happen quickly. But as of right now, I think they've been up there, 45 to 50 minutes, if I'm not mistaken.
Time's such an illusion. I was thinking 30 minutes, but you could totally be right, Das.
Yeah, I
Time
need to go
is a
back.
flat circle, Chris.
Yes, a flat circle. I love it. Yes.
I don't know if somebody could scroll back and see exactly when those lifts went up, but we've seen them up for an hour to an hour and a half. But once they come down, things can start to happen very quickly. You'll see the pad clear out, progression of vehicles leaving the pad. You'll see the tank farm activity start to spool up. Maybe we'll get some grass vent. That doesn't mean anything. But once the recondenser comes on, we really know that we're getting into that count. So we are rapidly approaching the part of the stream where you don't want to go anywhere. The lifts need to come down, the pad needs to clear, and then it's going to be go time. It's now 1:47, and SpaceX is working towards this flight here in the afternoon. Looks like the weather's holding, still hasn't cleared up completely, but we are hoping that we see. Yeah, it probably won't get any more clear than this right now. We may lose a Starship in the clouds, but we're hoping that they are going for the flight here later this afternoon. I wanted to give a quick update on what we're expecting and why we're hanging out. In the meantime, answering some super chats, just having fun, hanging out. It's almost like we're all hanging out on a couch waiting for Starship to go. That's sort of our vibing that they are going for the space flight here later this afternoon. I wanted to give a quick update on what we're expecting and why we're hanging out. In the meantime, answering some super chats.
Go ahead, Jack.
Having fun, hanging out. It's almost like we're all hanging out on a couch waiting for Starship to go. That's sort of our vibing that they are going for the space flight here later this afternoon. I wanted to give a quick update on what we're expecting and why we're hanging out. In the meantime,
stupid. I'll stop.
No, I hopefully the flight termination system safety pins are a little bit more robust than the tab on a soda can.
Oh my God, Jack, you nearly burped me with that. I started laughing so hard. That was epic. But actually, since we're talking about the flight termination system, we do have a super chat question here from Micah asking, do we know, I don't think we do, but do we know what the explosives are for the flight termination system? I don't know if they would make that public for security reasons, personally, but...
I assume it's it's a C4 or some other type of explosive that is extremely shock resistant. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, C4... I mean, you could hit it with a hammer and it's not going to go off. You need to have a blasting cap that is detonated electronic. I think it has to get hit straight up with a supersonic shockwave. The blasting cap is what initiates the explosion there. And in the absence of that, it's extremely, extremely stable. And it's not just C4. There's multiple types of explosives that I kind of wish I knew more about because that stuff's fascinating. But I don't. But I believe it's some very shock resistant or tolerant explosive along the lines of C4.
I believe the industry standard, is just C4 charges for flight termination systems on rockets, so yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think usually it would be like a shape charge, right? And I don't know if these are shape charges, which shape charge is basically it's a molded shape out of the explosive, and usually a penetrator of some kind, like copper or some other metal. And the explosion actually turns that metal into a molten jet, which then, does its thing. And I don't know if it's always a shape charge or if Starship uses shape charges specifically or just like C4 packs or what. But yeah, that's about what we were looking at there. Feel free to add anything, anybody, if you have something, of course.
What's it holding on the screen right now?
Yeah,
Sorry, that's not a question for you,
We've
Jack.
transitioned the camera to the production site.
Oh yeah, we're just looking around.
What? Yeah, but what tank? What tank is it holding?
Is that's
that
one of the
is
GSE
GSE
tanks,
1.
right? Yeah.
Yep.
Is that GSE 1? Okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That's GSE 1 in the background next to the moon cone, and in the foreground, I believe that is also GSE, and I think it's an aft film for GSE, but I'm not sure. It might be forward. That's a good question for
Forward.
Mary or one of our daily video editors.
Yeah, it's cool because they're actually using the Starship manufacturing processes to build the tanks that will never be on a Starship. They're the GSE, the ground service equipment that hold the consumables on the ground, and they're using the same stainless steel, the same welding, same crane, same transport, the whole shooting match. So
Yeah,
that's
same labor even.
Right?
Yep.
I mean,
It's
it's
practice.
classic SpaceX. We talked about this a little bit earlier, right? It's classic SpaceX to go to a supplier, see what they'll quote you on price, see how fast they can get it to you, and if either of those metrics or other ones, surely, don't meet what they want, SpaceX will just do it themselves, and they'll save money doing it probably, and they'll get it done faster probably. So, classic SpaceX move there, and it's going to be so wild to see. Yeah, it's insane how quickly it's growing up, and you can see there the orbital launch mount and some pilings that have been driven in between us and the orbital launch mount, sort of over by the corner of the berm for the landing pad, I think is where that is. And you can see the beginnings of the tank farm with those two vertical tanks in the middle there. I mean, it's going to rapidly morph into a much more large and impressive site. I mean, it's already quite impressive, but I'm excited to see what it becomes.
So that the orbital launch site, the actual stand that Jack was talking about, is that structure on the right. The white, I'll zoom in tighter, but the white pilings are for the launch stand, and the darker rebar cages are the foundation for what will be the launch tower that will lift the Starship and Super Heavy onto the launch pad. Lots of haze today, but you get the idea.
It's just that time of the day. I mean, 2 p.m. there on the coast. It's the time where we get all the haze. We get the turbulence, a lot of energy in the air, especially down here close to the ground. You get the differentials as you're looking across water, and you got sand, and you got plants, and air rising at different rates. You get all sorts of sort of roiling here. So this is just the reality of looking through the atmosphere this time of the day. And as the sun starts to go down, as we get later into the afternoon here, which I'm not concerned about because the pad's not clear yet, right? So as we get some more time hopefully that energy sort of starts to dissipate. That differential, as we're looking across different types of terrain, starts to dissipate, and we get a much clearer picture. When that sun starts to go down, we get some fantastic shots of Starship, that's for sure.
Yeah, the lighting when that starts hitting that hour is really nice, and there might be a lot of turbulence and haze from these angles, but hey, guess what? We can see it. Everybody here at Isla Blanca Park right now, hundreds of people, maybe even thousands. We can't see it. We just cannot see Starship. And there's a guy that actually drove up to me on his bike a second ago and was like, "Can you guys see the rocket?" And I was like, "Nope." And he's like, "That's a bummer." And I was like, "Yeah." I don't know what else to say. Correct. Bummer confirmed.
There are some patches of blue sky. I'm looking up right now from the village. And it looks like there is some sun coming out and some blue sky, so that's a good sign.
The cloud cover is from the satellite imagery is still prevalent, but it is more broken than it was before. So broken clouds, I really would not hold out your hope for totally clear though.
Yeah, I'll take broken over fully cloudy.
Did you want me to show? Are you pointing a camera at the sun right now, Michael?
I mean, we can point these cameras anywhere.
I just looked up, and there's a camera looking at the sun. But here, I think what we were doing is sort of looking into the skies over Boca Chica, and you can see that is not a lot of blue up there. A lot of chunking. Yeah,
a non-zero amount of blue.
And I'll pan it down, and you can see, or tilt it down, excuse me, but... okay, it was, I promise, there was some sunlight hitting the ground where those cars are parked. Last time I looked was a minute ago, but the sun has gone behind. I was going to show the sunlight, but I guess not.
Yeah, I know when you looked up there, you did see the sun, the glow of the sun through the clouds, but it is definitely tough out there right now, especially this silly... I need to put in another ticket with the company that made this camera. Anyways, we will continue to look around and see what's happening with Starship SN11. Go ahead, Michael.
That FTS pin pull is still underway, and it usually does take a while, so I wouldn't be concerned or anything, but we don't know the exact timeline of when they're going to finish it. But once they do finish it, hopefully that pad will clear fairly quickly, as Doss was talking about earlier. And, I mean, once the pad clears, then it's really go time.
I imagine it's not just a matter of pulling pins and being like, all right, pin out, let's go, bye, see ya. I mean, I imagine there's some component that where once you've pulled the pins, you want to test and verify that it's ready to go. I mean, I'm guessing here, but I mean, clearly by the amount of time that those lifts have been up, you know, it's more involved than just pulling a pin and walking away and whistling a happy tune.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, it takes hour and a half for them to finish the work around there, but we will at some point see those double chopstick lifts come down. And see how there was somebody said it looked like somebody was trying to pick up SN11 with chopsticks. I posted up a picture around sunset yesterday of the two lifts working in the same area, and it was like somebody trying to eat a Starship sushi roll with two ultra boom chopsticks or something.
SpaceX developing their catch arm mechanism circa 2021.
There you go. Hey, folks, we see the Super Chats continuing to roll in. We have been sort of hanging out here. There is absolutely no way that we would be able to read all of the Super Chats just across the board. We're trying to display some of them, especially if there's not like a question or something on it. We're trying to just display them at the bottom, like right there. Tim Leslie, thank you for the support. It says right there on the tin. But we do know that there's no way that we'll be able to read every one of these Super Chats. I did just want to say thank you to a couple people really quickly here. Pebmets says, brings back memories of the Enterprise landing and handling tests during shuttle development. Starship with RS-25s, that would be an interesting combination. Chris G, Starship, RS-25s. Trend or awesome?
Ooh, not for Starship. Look, in all honesty, RS-25s are an absolutely great and powerful engine. They are not meant for the rapid turnaround that Starship would need. When you light an RS-25 engine, it is 3 weeks minimum until you can light it again. And even if nothing's wrong with it, because that's literally just how long it takes to dry all of the hydrogen and oxygen and everything out of them to make sure they're ready to fire again. So a Starship with RS-25s, I mean, from a performance characteristics, you could figure that out. I mean, they're both, the Raptors and the RS-25s are both extremely powerful engines in that regard, but you'd have to
So the aim of the flight was to test a new kind of fuel. It's called HEFA. It's a sustainable aviation fuel. In this case, it's use cooking oil. We have put on engine 2, the red one, and we have assessed the engine behavior with this fuel and compare how it behaves with the normal fuel, Jet A1. It was perfect. There was no change in the engine behavior. No, we are very happy. I think it was a step forward for the clean aircraft.
Yeah. I mean, famously, didn't they think it would be like there was like some pushback at NASA about mounting the orbiter on the back of a 747, and an engineer made a RC plane and demonstrated that it was in fact feasible via the RC plane, and they're like, all right, let's do that. Like,
there was an RC plane version of that. Yes.
Talk about cutting edge, cutting edge technology of the day. What a sight that would have been to see.
So, so many of the subscale models, like over at Intrepid Museum in New York City, I do a bunch of work with Intrepid, and they've got one of the little wind tunnel models that's all done in steel, and then it's got little servos and actuators and wiring. And it was a subscale shuttle, and they could move the flaps and the body flap and the split tail and all that stuff in this little shuttle that's not 3 feet long. The wiring and all the intricate little servos and stuff, it's the craziest thing. But without all of the computer simulations, right, all these powerful supercomputers that we run these days, it doesn't even take a supercomputer. They got real world testing by building a model and putting it in the wind tunnel, blowing some smoke over it. You know what I mean? They got it done.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna grab a couple more questions here. Let me just speed run some of these. Richard Glennie with a question about Isla Blanca. That's where Jack is right now. We'll spool up a feed from him in a bit. Do you think Isla Blanca Park will be closed when they start launching with 20 plus Raptors? 3 were pretty loud. Can't even begin to fathom 27. I haven't. Go ahead, Jack. You're there right now.
Sorry, I know you said you were going to speed run. I'll be quick. This is a big question for Thomas, because Thomas, I think, you're a smart guy, Thomas. I don't think that. I know that.
Oh God, you're setting the bar high. Hold on now.
Isn't it the case that it's not a like 28 Raptors isn't, what is it, 8 times as loud as 3? It's not a linear scale there, right?
Yeah. 2 inches is not twice as loud as 1. Right. It's not a linear thing. It's a logarithmic scale. Basically, obviously, 27 Raptors will be much louder than 3, but it's not a linear increase. There are environmental assessment documents out there that kind of show what they expect the noise levels to be, and based on those documents, the documents exist for Kennedy Space Center at least. I don't know if the same measurements have been done, like overlaid over Boca Chica, but I think someone took the map that they produced for launching from 39A and overlaid the sound levels to a launch from the orbital launch site in Boca Chica, and you should still be fine to view a launch from like South Padre Island, and Isla Blanca Park and start. So I don't think there's a huge sound issue. Again, it's also depending on how exactly they conducted those assessments, and they might want to expand the area out. It would just surprise me if they were building an orbital launch site that would literally require the evacuation of South Padre Island. Like, that feels infeasible, and it would have been a prohibitive choice to them building the launch site where they built it.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I'm interpreting that.
I think, I mean, my gut on that is maybe under like traditional, extra safe, extra over careful, super slow old space guidelines, maybe it would require the evacuation of South Padre Island or parts of it. But I mean, like we talk about all the time, especially Christy was talking about it earlier. We got to start thinking about these things more like planes. And DOS, I know, I'm not talking about abort modes. I know planes can glide. But no, like really, we have to reach a point where we have confidence in the ATFS or what have you, or any other number of factors that allow us to be able to launch these things in more places. I mean, how are we even going to do point to point if you can only launch it in like 3 different places around the Earth or whatever because of incredibly large exclusion zones? But yeah, sorry, Dash, you said you were going to speedrun this.
Good speedrun, y'all. Good speedrun.
Is it bad that I want to add something to that? But
I was going to add something. I mean, the way that the math works out with decibels and sound pressure and stuff like that, it's not like 1 raptor is this and 2 raptors is double and 3 raptors is triple. That's not really how sound pressure math works out. So going from 3 to 27 doesn't mean that it's however many times that is, or it's too early. What is it? 9 times more. That's not how decibels work. That's not how sound pressure works. So in any event, I imagine, like y'all said, they probably would not have built an orbital launch platform here that would require the evacuation of a major population area. Not the village, just a couple houses there, but South Padre Island, the hotels, all the condos and stuff like that, that is a populated area, and they wouldn't be evacuating that entire place every single time.
And while sound is the thing that's the very visceral element to it, it's not actually the thing we're most concerned about when we talk about the exclusion zones. It's actually a measurement of if it blew up just after leaving the pad, or it blew up at altitude when it hasn't really pitched that far downrange yet, where could it throw debris? And that's your exclusion zone, because the area you'd be concerned with where the sound could really hurt you or kill you is way contained. Let me put it this way. The evacuation zone for that sound radius is much smaller than the evacuation zone for what happens if it explodes going uphill.
Right. Absolutely. So again, y'all, good questions there. I don't even know if I should
later
read this on air. I'm going to have to ask him if I can read this on air. I got a text from my cousin. Anyways, let me grab a couple more super chats that maybe don't have questions in them. Dead Sky 87, howdy from Texarkana, Texas. I think that's on the border of Texas and Arkansas, if I'm not mistaken. Y'all have made the wait enjoyable. Thanks for keeping us updated on the progress of all this. Dead Sky, we appreciate the support. Thank you so much. I cannot miss this one, folks. Stuart Beckett, 7 minutes ago, $100. Stuart, that is an awful lot of money. That goes a long way towards our coverage. We cannot do anything other than say thank you sincerely for that support. That is insanely generous, and we do appreciate you. We're going to keep on showing up. We're going to keep on sharing these experiences with people, and thank you for that $100 super chat I wanted to grab in there. No way I can read them all, y'all. Look, here's another one. Easy Cajun coming through with $99.99. We appreciate you there, Easy Cajun, as well. No message on there, even just flat-out support for the NASA spaceflight team and our broadcast and equipment and all that sort of stuff. Thank you, Easy Cajun, for the $99.99. Gah. There's another one, Dave Ballo, saying, great work, guys. We appreciate you, Dave. Boilermaker said Elon for president. Nice. Let's see here. Trying to find. Oh yeah, okay. I've got to scroll through some of these, folks. Evan Burdett said, I come here for the commentary. What even is a Starship? Love what you guys do. Thanks to you, I've got the rocket bug. Evan, that's what we want to do. There's people all over the world that have all sorts of different interests. Starship is almost sort of a unifying factor. So many people interested in what's going on. You got the rocket bug. Thanks to us. Thank you for showing up. We're happy we're able to share this with you. What's a Starship?
It's a modified grain silo designed to loft grain into low Earth orbit, Mars, and beyond.
Jack, it said, what's a Starship? It didn't say what even is a Starship. Wrong answers only. So really quickly, just in case that's the honest question, Starship is what we see on the screen right now. It's the tall vehicle there. If we look at it from this angle here, tough conditions today, but you can see some of the flaps there forward and aft. It's got the pointy nose up at the top, engines down at the bottom, tucked up under a skirt, and it is actually the upper stage of a much larger rocket system. We can't see it right now, but back behind our camera array, there is a booster that is going to go underneath this thing, and it's even taller. This is 50 meters tall, plus another 10 meters for the stand. The booster in the high bay is 70 meters tall without the stand. And so the entire Starship stack is going to be over 120 meters tall, and they are going to be using this to carry massive amounts of cargo into space. Not small sats, not this little, oh, let's get a ton or two into orbit. This is let's get equipment, heavy machinery, big stuff, lots of resources, lots of fuel into orbit. And not just that, out to the moon, all the way to Mars. You want a Mars base? You can fit an awful lot of gear inside of a Starship. It is a very, very large rocket, and this is the Starship, the upper stage of that system. Whew. All right. Let's see here. Michael Thompson, 10 Canadian, hailing from the great, I guess it's not White North right now, but it says, watching from BC, Canada, and love the streams. Mover's getting ready for pickup of SN11. You think the Mover was going to pick up SN11 after the successful landing? I'm liking it, Michael. I like the vote of confidence there. Let's see if we get a flight in here today.
Enthusiasm.
Yep, I agree, Chris. Here's one. Let's talk about this one for a second, y'all. From Brad Barrows, saying, do they recycle the old Starships to be melted down for reuse? If yes, does that mean that the Starships have metal from the old ones? Who wants to hop on that one and talk for a second?
Well, so we touched on it earlier. They do recycle the scrap metal from old prototypes. I don't know if we know for sure whether that same recycled metal has made its way back into new Starships. It's possible, but also I would also point out that they build them so quickly that I would imagine most of the rings for SN11 existed already before SN8 SN8 crashed. So if I had to guess, maybe not yet. Maybe in the future, some old Starship metal will make its way back into a new one. They do reuse some components. Like if they can salvage some pieces from prior Starships, there might be some small nuts and bolts or smaller sub-assemblies that have survived the hard landings and been used on new vehicles. So that's possible. Other than that, I don't think we have any confirmation of them reusing old Starship metal.
Yeah, probably just getting. They're probably recycling it for other purposes, but they're probably not turning scrap Starship steel back into new, fresh Starship steel. They're probably using fresh stainless steel when they're building new Starships, right?
Well, because that was going to be my point, is that it would have to, the recycling process would have to be fairly extensive. It was going to be used to make the new type of steel that they're using as well, because the steel variants have changed here as well. So that would have to be part of the process.
Gotcha.
As well.
Hey, TJ Hambley, thank you so much for the $10 there as well. Here's one from Newcastle, England, UK, sending you all a coffee. Super excited for SN11 to fly. So are we. We're hoping these lifts come down soon so that we can see that pad cleared out and they can get into the business end of this event today. But thank you there, Claire. Let's see here. Here's Xander Katze, who says, thank you so much for the wonderful streams. If Starship uses the vacuum engines, what's the duration to reach Mars compared to the current 6 months? Oh, geez. What's the marketing materials on that right now?
Well,
haven't they said about 3 months, but it varies based on orbital mechanics.
Right. So basically, here's how this works. It doesn't matter how. Well, it's not that it doesn't matter. The time it takes you to get to Mars is almost exactly the same, regardless of what launch vehicle you go on. The way you go there faster is if you take a less efficient trajectory, which can take advantage of certain vehicles such as Starship that have a bunch of extra propellant capacity. If you follow the most efficient trajectory, the time it takes to Mars will be exactly the same. And that was demonstrated this past summer. Yes, this past summer, when humanity launched 3 different missions to Mars. One on a Chinese rocket, one on a Japanese rocket, and one on an American rocket. All 3 vehicles had the exact same transit time between Earth and Mars. And that's just because that's how the physics works out. Now, when you're talking about a human spaceflight mission, there's now motivation to make the trip shorter, right? You want your crew to spend a little bit less time in microgravity and get to Mars quicker. So, Starship can take a less efficient trajectory, but burn more of its propellant in order to get there faster. And I believe, like you said, the estimate that Elon's guys is saying that they think they get that trip down
Since the earliest days of aviation, people have
how much payload you
prepared
take.
for air shows. But what exactly is an air show? Of course, it's a place to show off the latest and greatest in flight. But it's also the place where Boeing and aerospace manufacturers, service providers, airlines, militaries, and governments from around the world get together to strengthen partnerships and form new ones, commit to advancements in areas like safety and environmental performance, and inspire the next generation of innovators. So what is an air show? It's one of the ways Boeing is working to build the future together.
Like you literally have to lift it all off the surface of Earth in that
Right.
moment. You can also have a lot of it already in orbit, ready to go, and then that's when what you were saying, Thomas, really kicks in. Like the Starship that just finished on orbit refueling versus the Starship that was fully refueled a month ago and has undergone some boil off are going to be able to take slightly different trajectories to get there, even though they're all departing at the same time.
Gotcha. Yeah, exactly.
Makes sense. So it comes down to orbital mechanics and how much energy you can carry. The more energy you carry and the less payload you carry, the faster you can get to Mars by flying some less efficient trajectories, I guess would be the summary for it. I did it in Kerbal Space Program. Like, I can do it in Kerbal. So
I was going to say, in my head, what I was actually doing was like that little maneuver node thing and like dragging your velocity this way to change where you intercept the planet on its orbit. Like, that's what I was doing in my head. Yeah.
let's see here. Here's a good question. Crazy Vortex saying, how do the flaps on Starship move against such high aerodynamic forces while it falls? I can barely open my door when it's windy outside. So during the belly flop, we see the flaps moving, extending against the flow of air to change the aerodynamic properties, decrease the drag. What type of motors are in there, Tom? We know what type of motors are in there, right?
I believe aren't they Tesla electric motors?
I thought
they're
so.
electric motors. Yeah.
Yeah, they're not hydraulic. They're electric motors, and electric motors are fantastic for very high torque operations. So
basically, like the way I would answer that is like your physical strength as a human being can't open that car door when it's windy out. But if you hook systems for Starship and why that's a better idea is, once you release it through gravity, you can still to some extent control the flow rate by controlling the sizing of the pipes and the diameters of everything and how many of them there are around your flame trench. But if you need specifically like really high flow rates of water, because you just need to be literally throwing as much as you possibly can into it, then you'd want a pump system over a gravity system, because the pumps can help you maintain that higher flow rate than gravity would give you.
Yep, absolutely. So we'll continue to watch what's going on here. In terms of a big, tall water tower, they may need even more Starship water than they have at the Cape. The little water tower they have at the Cape. We'll see what continues to be built out there. But a good question, Nick, about the sound suppression system, the Rainbird hype. It's little sprinkler things called Rainbirds down at the bottom. So let's see here. Gonna just keep grabbing random questions. Here's one from Dmitro Kolosov asking, what are they going to do with the windows in Boca Chica? Won't an orbital super heavy break every window in the village?
In the village, maybe, but the village is being evacuated and people are moving out basically eventually, so it's kind of a non-issue, I guess, right?
Yeah, so the real answer to this is it's possible every once in a while a window would break, but you can, but windows can be made to withstand that. For example, the windows at Pad 40 and 39A in and around the Kennedy Space Center, the windows that they've got at trailers and places around.
Look
here, all work or all largely undamaged. What am I looking at?
The lift. One of the lifts looks like it's retracting.
Looks like they could be finishing up that FTS arming process then.
Let's see if the other one comes down.
Maybe it's just me being hopeful, but like I would be really shocked if they launch in this weather. I mean, it's overcast. There's a low cloud ceiling. There's insane amount of fog. I mean, I know they can probably see it from their pad cameras and they can see on their vehicle cameras, but it would just be wild to me if they launched in these conditions. And I'm really, really, really hoping they don't. I know that's a bummer, but I'm hoping they don't, because there's going to be a lot of disappointed people here at Isla Blanca Park and around the area. Including me. Let's be honest. Including me, if it's just not visible. I mean, wow.
I know, and like now I want to like be that devil's advocate person that says, yeah, but they've got cameras on they don't need the visibility necessarily. For it, as disappointing as it would be if we didn't have good viz for it, but
and any normal rocket launch, I mean, at the Cape or at Vandenberg, there are plenty of times when you would see a Falcon 9 or other rocket launched in conditions where it's not visible from public locations or really at all. Or it's visible for a few moments and then goes straight into a cloud or something like that. So perhaps we're just getting a dose of envelope expansion and realism here with the Starship program for the first time. But gosh, weren't the previous 3 flights so beautiful?
Just think back to how those previous flights were. Again, folks, one of those lifts is coming down. The other lift is still up there near the flight termination system. Hopefully they didn't just forget something like, oh my gosh, a 14 millimeter, we forgot it on the ground. We have to go get a wrench. Hopefully that's not what we're seeing with the lift going down. I don't know if they like put a little string down and just pick up 1 wrench or something. But that other lift is still up there. We'll see if it clears away. Pad's still not clear. Still vehicles all over the pad out there. Viewing conditions tough here in the afternoon down there at the beach in South Texas. A lot of humidity, a lot of energy in the air, getting a lot of that roiling turbulence and haze a little bit. It honestly looks a little bit smoky or a little bit hazy there as well, not just all turbulence. But we're continuing to watch. The good news about the lift being up is the later this goes, typically the more the image clears up. The atmosphere starts to clear up. We get a little bit less image in there or energy in there, and we get better shots as we move forward into the afternoon. But as of right now, still crews working at the pad. SpaceX has evacuated the village, and they are supposedly going for a launch here today. It's just not happening yet with the crew still out at the pad. Unfortunately, there's always people asking. Unfortunately, we can't tell you exactly what time the launch is. Not because we're not going to tell you. It's not like we know and we won't tell you. It's because SpaceX hasn't released that information. They haven't said when it's going to happen. But we're going to keep watching. We're going to hope that it clears up. SpaceX will make the decision on whether or not they need the visibility for flight. Wind conditions, other things, environmental factors like that, more important than the visibility probably to them. But that's all their call. They don't fly for entertainment purposes. They fly to get experimental data from this experimental Starship program. SN11 is not a spectacle to entertain us. It is an engineering vehicle that Elon wants to gain information to get human beings to Mars. So we'll see what SpaceX decides. But as of right now, village still evacuated. Lift just came down.
Still, what, that one lift is still up, but
Yep.
potentially still working on wrapping that up. As long as we keep seeing progress, I would really like the weather to cooperate and clear up. They do have a nice long window. And
Thomas,
they
do
don't
you
like
want
to
to
test on. Oh, go
grab
ahead.
some questions and chats and stuff real quick for us?
Yeah, sure, I could do that.
Thank
Just saying
you.
they've got a long window, I believe, based on road closures at 7:30 p.m. local time. So they've got some time, and obviously they don't like to test on the weekend, so if they delay past today, Monday might be the next attempt, although they could pull out a rare weekend testing attempt. But right now we're going to stay tuned and see what exactly pans out during the later parts of the window today. In the meantime, we will keep answering questions, etc. Let's see here. James saying, I think the mystery structure is either for transport or it's a cap for the top of the large booster to simulate second stage weight like Starship. Talking about some new structures we've seen on at the production site. So that is a good speculation, but we'll keep an eye out to see what exactly it is. But we don't know yet. Henry Coleman asks, do we know what the plans are for the crew of future starships to enter or exit the vehicle? If so, will boarding be different on Earth compared to Mars? So I would imagine that it would be a pretty standard crew access arm, at least here on Earth. I don't know if we've seen plans for like how crew will egress after they land on Mars, for example.
Oh, the
lunar...
elevator.
Well, that's the moon variant. I don't know if we've ever seen that on. That doesn't mean they can't also put it on the Mars variant, but that's only ever been shown by SpaceX with regard to the lunar variant.
Oh, really? Oh.
I haven't seen it on a Mars
totally
variant before.
Done something different than that. Okay.
but I think it's a fair bet that they will play on something similar. And so yeah, when you don't have a launch tower with a crew access arm, you'll have an elevator system to reach the payload section of Starship, which is
It was from a while ago. It was from a previous design, but SpaceX does have renders of a previous version of the Starship design with the elevator on Mars.
Official renders or like fan-made renders?
No, official renders from SpaceX of previous versions of it.
But I mean that's definitely the leading candidate, I would say. So yeah, hope that answers the question. A super chat here from Eric said he just read Lift Off by Eric Berger, great book. Money was always tight in the early years. Do we know just how bottomless the SpaceX pockets are now? Can they make it to Mars on the money they have?
Contrary, I think it's less than. I think the money is still extremely tight, given that they're trying to do two very capital-intensive things: one, develop Starship, and two, launch and begin doing Starlink. Both of those are extremely capital-intensive, and that's why we see them doing various raises, with venture capitalists and whatnot. I think they just raised like $300 million or something on the heels of like $1 billion raise a couple months before that. So they definitely seem to be needing money right now in order to accomplish everything that they want to accomplish. That's my inkling. I could be wrong. Somebody feel free to jump in with a counterpoint there.
I think I'll agree with Jack. I don't know. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah. You have to remember that the Starship prototypes are not really being funded by any external sources. Yes, they have a little bit of money from Human Landing System development and some other very small development contracts. They have a little bit of revenue from the beta version of Starlink, but like those two programs are.
Dear Moon.
Yeah, the Dear Moon guy. Yeah.
Again, but that's, I mean, I don't know what percentage of Starship development that's actually funding.
I believe Elon said at the Dear Moon event that it was going to be a significant amount.
Yeah.
Yeah, that clearly not all, and probably not most, and probably not, close to most, but definitely significant is what I remember Elon having said.
Yeah, same.
Let's see here, looking for some more questions and things here. We have, oh my goodness, a $100 super chat says, in memory of my dad who loved the Saturn V program and astronomy. Goddess Portia, thank you so much for the very generous super chat, and we're so sorry for your loss. Just want to express our condolences from the NSF team, and thank you for enjoying spaceflight here with us, and for your support. Thank you.
Yeah,
couldn't agree more. A friend of Rockets is a friend of us. And thank you for the support so much, and rest in peace to you, Father.
What that's referring to. I think I'm missing the meaning of that acronym.
Cold cranking apps?
Demosian? The word for someone who lives on Demos is, I think, what this username is. Thanks for the super chat. Saying there's loads of rockets which are rated for very inclement weather. So this is a very common conversation with regards to Starship, saying they just happen to carry nuclear warheads. Yeah, so that's an interesting thing. A lot of people point out, like, oh, Soyuz can launch in a blizzard, etc. Yeah, Soyuz is a derivative of an ICBM, which has to launch regardless of what the weather is. So it's a lot of different design constraints there. Starship is obviously not an ICBM. So, yeah, go ahead.
Even thinking about like Minuteman 3 or like an actual currently operational ICBM, I'm not the U.S. government, so I don't know. So caveat all this with this is a guess, but I imagine, with a warhead, with a nuclear missile like that, you have a circular probability of error, or CPE, or something like that, where like you generally know based on the data from your test that you have that if you launch it, it's going to hit within, say, a half mile or a quarter mile or what have you of the designated target. I wouldn't be surprised if, yes, the Minuteman 3 or other similar ICBM is rated to launch in any weather condition because it's a national security issue, but I do wonder what effect that would have on the error probability and how far off a Minuteman might fall off the target if it was going through some kind of crazy shear on the way in or on the way up or what have you. Oh, that's amazing. Thank you.
Meanwhile, we got a. What was? Go ahead. I didn't get the last.
We might have lost Jack for a second there. Moving along.
The NRO
He made
caught
fun
wind
of the
our boy reusable- Yeah,
ICBMs.
yeah. He's gonna say the Pentagon showed up. A very generous super chat from Mark White. Another $100 super chat. Thank you so much to all the very generous support of the stream. We really do appreciate it. Let's see here. Got a super chat here, Mr. Very Frost, who says, Lithuanian proverb says, third time do not lie, but fourth guarantee. Despite clouds, this will be the best test flight so far. I like the optimism, and I certainly hope you are correct. Let's see here. Modi Space Industries, Thomas Fog Crab. We're just smashing up all the memes at this point. Appreciate it, MSI.
Return of the Fog Crab. Awesome. Thank you, MSI.
Thank you so much, Multispace. Appreciate it. Here's a question. Has SpaceX had to repair or resurface the landing pad after the previous rapid defunding event? Fire suppression system tests? Whatever we're calling those. The crash landings is the term I would use. What do we know how extensive that repair work on the landing pad was?
I don't think this last one was as extensive as the others. They have had to re-pour sections of it as well. I think it was after 9. What was that the one where we were having the discussion of how long?
Sent to Mars to test and improve the process and generate propellant prior to a human flight. I would say that that's probably going to be cargo on one of the very first Mars landing attempts, because that's something that they'll want to test as quickly as possible. That is how they're going to refuel starships and get them back to Earth. So I would imagine at least an experimental version of that system will go to Mars very, very early on in the Starship program. And then Luis says, greetings from Uruguay. We are watching your stream at the office right now. Appreciate it, Luis. Thanks for joining in. And then Don Clay says, here's some bucks to improve Michael's API. Michael, I'm sure, is appreciative of that.
Nice.
Elixir says, thanks for all that you do. Thank you so much for all the kind words from everybody here. Stargate Pioneer says, I'm older than y'all because I remember coding Fortran with punch cards. That sounds like a blast.
Ooh.
As for a question, which is faster, a Stargate F302 or a SpaceX Starship?
What? An F302 has a warp
Well,
drive. Like a hyperspace generator. Come on.
Hold on, I gotta Google which franchise Stargate F302 is from.
Look, a Starship has to follow real physics, and F302 doesn't. There's your answer. Come on. Really?
Well, now, Doss, there was that report last week that warp drive is possible, not just theoretically. Now, come on.
Is possible. Oh, come on. They strapped a Stargate underneath an F302 and used it to transmit it. Like... Go leave a dial home device and it ends you up in deep space because you just repurposed alien tech. That's the real problem that you have with the 302 program, or the 301, 302 program. Anyways.
I think the answer to this question is like, well, I don't know. Is light a particle or a wave?
No, a puddle jumper. A puddle
news.
jumper. What's up, Michael?
I have news. I am unfortunately going to have to break the news that testing has been scrubbed for today. The Cameron County website has updated if you want to go to our road closure scene, DOS.
Got it.
And it is a scrub for today.
It is like officially on the county website. Stand by, I'm getting the overlay.
Road is open. So, there it is.
Right there, folks. So from the official Boca Chica road closures, this comes right off the Cameron County website, and it has been updated. The Cameron County website now says testing concluded. Highway 4 and Boca Chica Beach are now open. And I'll see if I can get that actual website real quick. This is our poll that we can show on a screen there, but I'll get the real website here as well. But that right there, official word from the county, right, Michael?
Yes, so that's about as official as it's going to get.
Oh, buddy. Let's see if I can grab that real quick here.
There's
Cameron?
a fair chance that this was weather related, as we've been discussing during the stream today.
And the next attempt would be based on temporary flight restrictions only, would be tomorrow. But that is the only indication there could be a launch tomorrow. We still have no road closures. We have no marine hazard zones. We have no evacuation notices to the villagers. So still, we have no official confirmation from SpaceX. So there is a temporary flight restriction, which is the airspace closure in place for tomorrow. But I do not have an official or more, robust indications to actually say that Saturday's a potential attempt. So please stay tuned to us on Twitter. I'm at Next Space Flight. There's also at NASA Space Flight, our main account. And we will post updates as we have them. But as of now, a bit early to say when the next attempt is going to be.
Yeah,
this
right
is how
here.
testing goes.
Right here, folks. This is off the Cameron County official website, cameroncounty.us/SpaceX. And this is the official source that gives information on road closures. If you scroll on down here, you can see the only thing listed on the entire website. Let's just do this right here. It currently says testing concluded. Highway 4 and Boca Chica Beach are now open, and that is straight off the county website. Official notice to the public that the road is open and they can go to Boca Chica Beach, which would mean no potential flight today. Once that road's open, village will be de-evacuated. Cameron County saying that the public can return to the area. So, bit of a bummer. Static fire looked good, right?
Yeah, there
It
was
did,
progress
yes.
made today.
Yeah.
There was progress.
I would imagine.
And it
obviously,
looked like,
we
and
don't
they
have
really
official
tried
word.
for it. Yeah.
It would be interesting. I wonder if someone can get an answer from Elon on Twitter about like what the actual weather constraints for these types of flights are. I would bet strongly that this scrub is a weather thing and not like a
Well,
technical readiness thing.
I have heard they were working technical issues today. To what extent, I have no idea, and if it was the cause of the scrub, I have no idea. But I did hear they were working technical issues earlier.
So
we
I
did-
will refine my question when Elon tweets next to what was the cause of the scrub rather than what's the weather constraints.
No, do both. Do both.
yeah, or that.
Yeah.
The lift is still working, though, and it was taking quite a long time. So I don't know if that was the problem or not. I have no idea, other than that there was some issue being worked, but it's not happening today. That is the bottom line.
That is the bottom line with that official notice from the county. Wow. Well,
Wow.
that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes here with the roadside rocket science. We
That's
don't control
the fog billows.
Thank you, Jack. We don't control the schedule. It is SpaceX's experimental program that they're running. We are happy to share it with y'all, but SpaceX here has decided that there is no potential flight later today. And honestly, we don't know exactly, like we said, we don't know the exact reason, but look at the